Oh my. Oh my.
You are now tuned in to the Revolution Radio Show.
Yo, what it is and what it do. You know, you have officially tuned into the Revolution Radio Show, aka the Revolution Podcast. As always, I am your boy J Love, and I'm joined by my more talented than myself and more beautiful, even though I think I'm pretty, but my more beautiful co-hosts, Miss Cherie Marlene.
Hey everybody, happy Wednesday.
And Miss Melian.
Yo, happy hump day.
Hump day. How y'all doing today? Y'all doing all right?
We're doing good. And I love your honesty because you do think you're prettier than everybody here. I love that you feel that way about yourself.
Can guys be pretty?
Can
guys be pretty?
James can be pretty.
Like a pretty boy?
Yeah, I get facials. I make sure that my skin is straight. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that, though. We talked about the pedicure thing, too. You do that as well, right?
Yes, I believe that, you should keep everything, your cuticle suitable. That way you can stay beautiful. You understand?
Something real funny. My mom used to do nails, and she said this big, like Samoan, like half Samoan, half black guy came in.
Say it like
big.
your mom. Say it like your mom. Say it like your mom.
No, don't play me. No, but
say it like your mom.
I'm gonna tell you what she said though, because he came in and he wanted a pedicure. She said,
"Technology, can you hear me? Gonna get it better." But
I hear her.
Yeah. So he was like, he wanted a pedicure, and my mom said, "Oh, you want barbecue?" And like it was funny. He was like, "No, don't grill my toes. Don't grill my toes." So it was funny. Now when I think of men getting pedicures.
On Facebook, Robert Spriggs said that y'all look better than me.
I see that. Shout out to Robert.
What up, Robert? Thank you.
Whatever, man. Whatever. They're a hater. But check it out. So it is Wednesday, the 24th. We're still in Black History Month. You know that I'm going to beat y'all over the head with all this blackness. So today, we're highlighting, all month long, I've been highlighting people that you might not, everyone's heard of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Rosa Parks. We all got them. But I've been giving y'all, so you understand the fingerprint of Black folks, not just in America, but around the world. So this next gentleman I want to highlight, do you understand? It is almost impossible for you to watch television and not feel black magic. I call it black magic because we are highlighting Dr. Joseph N. Jackson. And yes, he is a Jackson because he invented the remote control, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out for a black man that created the remote control,
hey.
Dr. Jackson.
Thank you for not forcing me to continuously get up and change the channel. Right?
Hey, for those of y'all who grew up around the same time as me, if you were born in the 70s, you remember once upon a time, you would have to go to the TV with a pair of pliers. See, y'all don't know about this.
No.
And it would be you'd have to, because you were the remote control for your mama. So your mama would say turn, but at least there was only like 4 or 5 channels back then. And you had to with it. And there was always a big TV that didn't work with a little TV on the top. Don't ask me why we did that, but everybody's house I went to had the big TV with the little TV on the top. And when your mama say change the channel, you would have to be the one to get up. So shout out to Dr. Jackson that I don't got to get up no more. I can sit on my butt and I can just do the thing.
All right,
Black magic, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I mean? And an honorable mention today. I got to shout out. It's an extra one. An honorable mention. One of my favorite artists of all time. And if you don't love her, there's something wrong with you. You know, your mama dropped you on your head. But shout out to Miss Lauryn Hill.
Yeah.
Because on this day in 1999, she became the first woman to win 5 Grammys in one night for the Miss Education Lauryn Hill. Still to this day, one of the greatest albums ever. You can listen to it from beginning to end without stopping. It is bananas. You know what I'm saying? So, it is absolutely, I got to shout out Miss Lauryn Hill. Matter of fact, quick, and now because I want to jump into this because I can't wait for the day. I've been waiting. I've been like a little kid for today's episode. But I saw Lauryn Hill right before the pandemic. One of her last concerts. Yeah, before the pandemic with Dave Chappelle. Because that's I go to events like that. Yeah, you understand?
We got it.
And so I want to give y'all a tip. I'm gonna give y'all a free tip. Okay. So what happened is that it was at the Rose Bowl. For those of you who have ever been to LA to the Rose Bowl, but like any stadium type thing, whatever, sometimes the seating is a little bit tight, and even though I done recently lost a little bit of poundage and I'm still working on some more, I'm a little bit of a thick kid. You understand what I'm saying? I'm a little thick, right? So they got ushers. So I was like, Miss Usher girl, come here. These people, they too close to me. I'm a thick guy, and they, I don't know, y'all, we gonna have to figure something out because they just all on my personage. You understand? And she said, "Oh, give me a minute, sir. Hold on, let me see what we can do for you." I said, "I would really appreciate that, Kimberly, Becky, Amber, whatever your name is, Apple. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm being real, stereotypical right now. But anyways, so she came and she comes back and she goes, "Oh, I got new seats for you." Right. So I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I thought they was gonna be like a couple of rows, in front of me. This heifer brought me up to the third row. Thank you, Jesus. So the moral of the story is gain some weight so you can get some better seats.
I mean,
gain some weight. So you can get some better. See, I went to the. Did you not hear what I said? I was in a VIP box in the third row.
Yes.
How about get rich and then get rich and then get the VIP seats? I don't want to gain no weight.
I don't. Please disregard that message. It is only J-Love approved. Only J-Love.
So that being said, let's jump right into our show today. I'm really excited because this is an issue that's close to my heart, something that I've dealt with throughout my life. And I think it's something that we need to have a discussion about. So today we are going to be talking about police reform, police brutality, defund the police. Like, what does that mean actually? And we've been blessed enough that we actually have a couple of officers that have agreed to come on and discuss this with us. Because a lot of times we just talk amongst ourselves and, we do a lot of barking and, but there is never a solution unless we have both sides. There'll never be a solution unless both sides are part of the conversation. So allow me to welcome, ladies and gentlemen, welcome right now, Officer John, well, actually former sergeant, and Officer Felipe to the show. Fellas, welcome to the Revolution Radio Show. How you doing today?
You definitely got to play your siren now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got the cough. You got to play the siren.
Not even ready.
Okay, this is Officer John and Officer Felipe. You guys gotta get this.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Revolution Radio Show. I'm glad that you guys were able to come on. I appreciate you guys for being brave enough. Because a lot of people would shy away from something because it may feel controversial. But revolution and change is never comfortable, but it is necessary. Right. So I'm going to jump right in because I got my very first question and I'm just going to put y'all feet to the fire immediately. You know what I mean? So right off the bat, and I'm asking you as actual law enforcement, can we agree that there is a history of like a bully culture or abusive culture within police departments across the country? Either one of y'all can answer that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't deny. You see what's going on in history back to Rodney King, everything that's current up to George Floyd and everything else that's going on. You can't turn a blind eye to it, and that's something that we have to address.
You know what? The reason and thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you saying that.
Because like starting with the truth is and it's different you saying it than me saying it, because I think it carries a lot more weight and chance for the opportunity for hope in change. The fact that because I know if you acknowledge that means that there must be other people like you that acknowledge that within departments across the country, and I just want to follow up real quick with my next question, because I know they got questions and we got a lot to talk about. But so if that being said, can we agree then that anyone who is in violation of the law, even if they're officers, even if, because I want to definitely later talk about qualified immunity and what you guys think about that. But do you think that even if you're an officer, if you violate the law, you should be held accountable?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Everybody, we're law enforcement officers. We're not above the law. We just enforce what law is out there. It doesn't make us above the law. That whole entire saying I'm the law. I'm not the law. I'm just an arm of it, and I'm not above it. We all need to be held accountable. It's just because I'm a cop doesn't mean I'm immune to it. I have to be held accountable.
Have you seen in your career, though, that maybe some of your coworkers feel that they are above the law, or in your entire history of working in law enforcement?
I would say yes. I've seen some that do tend to abuse it, and I'll be the first one to say, like, I've been pulled over, and if they know me or something like that, like, hey, just slow it down.
Right.
So does it happen? And do people abuse that? Definitely. If I got a ticket when I get pulled over, am I going to be like, what, I'm a cop? No. You know what? I deserve to get the ticket. Give it to me. I'm not going to argue with it.
I respect that.
We should be held accountable.
Yeah.
And do you think it's the responsibility of those within or within the department or those outside of the department to fix that problem, address that issue?
It takes both. I mean, we have to work as a community, as Flip was just saying, holding someone accountable. Not only we're held to a higher standard, if we lose that accountability and everything's not fair from beginning to end for everybody, then we're not going to have that trust within the community. That's what the split that you see between us versus them right now. And not only do we have to be responsible internally, I think it takes a team effort. People, reporting things in internal affairs or telling a supervisor or just calling out an officer in front of them. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that we need to be open that we all make mistakes and we need to improve. And if, like I said before, if we turned a blind eye to it, the accountability's gone. So we can't say we're accountable. So we got to keep moving forward, and that's the only way to address it is together.
Man, I wish hearing you guys say this, you don't understand and I don't want to be extra, and but like most of my experience in my lifetime with law enforcement has been negative. Matter of fact, the first time I was beat up by police, I was only 12 years old. I was, slammed down. I was called nigger, all kinds of other racial slurs, and had my face slammed into the hood of the car. And that was my first experience, not my last. And so, and typically, I remember after Eric Garner was murdered, right? I asked someone in law enforcement that I had known, what did they feel about the Eric Garner case, right? Because for those of you who don't know the Eric Garner case, he was the gentleman in New York that got choked. He was allegedly selling loose cigarettes outside of a liquor store. And so my question that I posed to the officer was, hey, for loosies, which is what they call it in New York, like, was it worth it, him losing his life? And the response, and this is why what you're saying for me resonates so heavy. And I'm so grateful that you're saying this from this officer was two things. He said, number one, it was an infraction of the law. Right. And so basically putting it back on Eric Garner, like it was his fault. And he said, well, things happen. Right. It was if he wouldn't have infracted the law, they would have never. And I'm like, for selling loosies?
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you guys feel about not diplomatic immunity? Why did I forget the name of it?
Qualified immunity.
Qualified immunity. And for those of you out there who are listening, qualified immunity means, and maybe you guys can explain it better from the law enforcement standpoint. My understanding of it is, in a nutshell, basically, police have a certain amount of immunity when in the moment of duty, right? Like, so if they're doing something on the job, basically, it kind of shields them from accountability if things go wrong. Is that correct?
Yeah, to a point. I mean, it comes across we're protecting us from frivolous lawsuits. And I think the problem that everybody's having around the country with qualified immunity is if myself or others found some excessive force or police brutality, we're getting at Eighth Amendment stuff, you have to find a case that matches it. And that's difficult to do. So the community is getting angry because they think that we're just protected all the time. But that's also our insurance. So even myself right now talking to you, I'm 50-50 on it because, yeah, we do need to be held accountable. But at the same time, on the other side, it seems like everybody wants to take away all of our protections. And then you folks out there speaking to us saying, hey, you're getting protected. You guys aren't being held accountable. So you guys can do anything you want because you know you're not going to be found guilty or be held accountable later. So that's something that still needs to be discussed. And the qualified immunity goes differently within each state. And then, of course, we have it federally.
Yeah. And like John was saying, it's what people don't understand with if you take away all of qualified immunity. So let's say I pull somebody over, guy takes off running, I chase him, tackle him, he breaks his arm. Did I do anything on purpose to cause that injury? I mean, I tackled him, but it wasn't anything I did out of, just to hurt the person. It was kind of like an accident while I was tackling him. Take him into custody. So he turns around and sues. What usually happens is he'll sue the department. My name will be listed on that lawsuit. And then eventually when they settle or whatever for a certain amount of money, my name is taken off the lawsuit and the department basically pays the money. If you take away qualified immunity, now he can sue me personally. So now I did my job. I didn't do it with, any intent to hurt the person. But now I'm getting sued and I have to protect myself. And if I end up losing, I could end up owing him, $100,000. Oh, I don't make that kind of money. So to me, in the long run, that's going to hurt police departments because who's going to want to do the job when even if you do it right, you can still get sued and end up having to pay out, thousands of dollars. So to me, in the long run, you're going to end up getting even worse candidates to be police officers than you have. And it'd probably lead to a bigger problem than what you have now.
Damn, worse candidates then.
Yeah, I mean, that's just my right. That's my idea of where it will go if you take away all of qualified immunity. Now, I agree with John too, though, does some of it have to change? Obviously it does. Because, you're looking at some of these cases that are going, and I'll be the first one to say, like, some of them I'm like, that guy should not be a cop. That person should not be doing the job. But then, they end up being found not guilty. And so I think there does need to be a change.
Well, take, for example, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep, but just take, for example, the George Floyd case, right? Right. This particular officer had several, you know what I mean? And it just like you look at cases like that, and I know, and this is what, and like I'm doing my best to be responsible, and because I understand that I'm very, very passionate and very, militant, and but I don't want to, because I don't like people painting a brush on the other end. I don't want to paint a brush and be like, yo, all cops, damn, I don't want to do that, right? Right. But there has to be a place where, like, at least, I don't know, common sense, or maybe on a case by case basis, because otherwise justice isn't served. Because I know everyone always throws out Chicago. What about Chicago? You guys get mad at the cops. And I'm like, okay, but if say Pookie shoots me, right? Right. Realistically, if Pookie does it on camera, right? There's 32 camera phones and Pookie does it on camera. Pookie gonna be found accountable for that. Whereas Officer Williams, chances are, and I'm just saying based on historically speaking, Officer Williams is not. He might get, have to do desk duty for a couple of weeks or a month or whatever. But at the end of the day, Officer Williams skates. And so I think there has to be some kind of a balance in, the entire system, because it's not just like the year 2020. It's not just the 2000s. It's not just the 90s. I mean, we can go back to Emmett Till. We can go back before that. So, here, I guess here's my next question. Then I'll let you guys. I'm sorry, Cherie, and I know Melion, you guys got some questions. But what can we do? And I'm speaking to you specifically as officers about eradicating this thing that we've heard about called the blue line, where what comes first is justice, not the blue line. Me personally, anyways, I've always had a little bit of an issue. I understand where the term the blue line came from.
because for the most part, we're out there dealing with people on their worst day, and we as police officers need to stick together. People are in crisis whenever they call us. Whether it's a domestic violence. I mean, I've been called to people who have called us and said, "Hey, my 11-year-old doesn't want to go to school today." That person has lost all control and has said, "I'm in such a crisis right now. I don't know what to do. I need the cops to help me." So I get where that came from, but I've always also disagreed with the term, the blue line, because it makes it sound like we need to stick together no matter what. And that's what's got us into these problems is people are turning blind eyes to cops that are doing bad things and cops that are, violating people's civil rights. And we can't do that. We need to speak out against each other too and stand up for what's right. Because that's what our job is to do, is to protect the community, protect the people we serve. And if that means we have to stand up against each other, that's what it means. I'd rather work with a bunch of good cops, that are out there doing the right thing and out there for the right reason.
A to the men.
Mm-hmm.
Sarge, were you gonna say something, Sarge? Okay, I thought
something like that. I think to add the flip, you got to diversify pretty much the culture, and we have to reform it, as opposed to having pride in your department or the.
Say that again. Say that again.
So you got to diversify your culture and you got to reform it, but at the same time, you can have pride in what you work for and who you work for. But as soon as you guys see something wrong, that's the problem we're seeing right now. I can name case law off the top of my head. When you're seeing that you need a duty to intervene, and let's go back to George Floyd, because that gets me amped up right now.
Yep.
Chapin does not represent us. Doesn't represent us.
Nope.
That is the
not at all
worst. I mean, that I want to punch my TV when I saw that. That doesn't define who we are. And I think for every person in America, the Floyd family, people of color, of course, they're going to fear the police after they see that. And that's something that we have to have a goal to reform and to fix what we have done wrong in the past, present, and make sure it doesn't happen in the future. If we don't do that, again, we will have no trust. And then we don't have any pride in our profession. And once we don't fix any of that, we cannot move forward at all. It's not going to happen.
Yep.
It's so amazing to hear you guys say this, because I've never heard this coming from law enforcement.
Yeah,
before.
you said it pretty. You said it pretty passionately. Have you ever witnessed, a fellow officer do something like that? And what did you do? I mean, not to put them on blast. You don't have to say their name, but like us.
No, I won't. We'll just say they're no longer a law enforcement officer. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like I said,
the one time I saw,
I'll get little law. Yeah, law block, a little due to intervene. We got Jones versus Harper, Sanders versus Cunningham. I'll bring that up from 2003. And everyone's talking about due to intervene. We should have been doing that ever since before Rodney King.
Wow.
It's gone away, and that's where everyone's having trouble with the thin blue line. He's no longer a law enforcement officer. The next question you're going to ask me is, what did I do about it? I braced him up and confronted him on it, and then I reported him, because he does not define who I am.
Thank you,
He
Jesus.
does not define, and one bad apple makes the rest of us look bad. And everybody out there that's on the other side is going to say, oh, man, John and Flip are tattling. That's what you guys expect of us, to hold us to a higher standard.
Yes.
We can't do that
Absolutely.
ourselves. It's not going to happen.
Wow, thank you for that.
And to go off of that, the guy that I saw do it, he's no longer working either. But those to those ones that are saying, oh, we're tattling, you know what? If you think I'm tattling, those ones, and it's not everyone, it's not every cop that's saying that. Mm-hmm. It's the ones that are doing that are doing the wrong things that are going to say we're tattling. Because I'm not tattling on anybody.
Of course.
I mean, you go and tell somebody what I did. I mean, even with all the cameras and stuff out there now, people are like, "Aren't you?" I don't care if I'm being recorded. I'm doing my job the right way. Yeah. And to be honest with everybody here, the most you're going to get is you're probably going to go back and be like, "Man, that guy cusses a lot." That's what you're going to get. That's, and I'll be like, okay, you can reprimand me for that, but you know what? I do my job the right way. And those that are sitting out there that say, "Oh, you're tattling," my advice to you is maybe you should find another job.
Yep. Well, I have a question.
And my other thing to add to that is, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Add, and then I'll have
just to add to it is, we're also doing that person who's not in the department that we're talking about. We did them a disservice because early in their career, whether in academy or in their career, what did we miss that they weren't taking accountability for? They kept getting away with it. They got their hand caught in the cookie jar. The problem becomes bigger, and then they start to become empowered and think that it's okay. And then the stigmatism is off to everybody, and everybody thinks it's okay. And then that's where you start having a problem with the culture. You got to nip it in the bud. I'm teaching cadets right now in the academy and telling them about duty to intervene. And also the same thing, man, we can talk about law and all this great stuff. If you don't have compassion, humanity, common sense, and you can't communicate, then you don't belong in this job.
Okay, Sheree, I want you to ask your question, Sheree, but I gotta on what you just said. So you're training, right? You're training other officers right now, correct, Sergeant John?
Correct. Yes. Okay,
so I think that is one of the most important keys is the training, and like you were saying about compassion and all that. So is there more officers like you doing this across the country? Are you an anomaly, or are you you know what I mean? Like, is there
Can
hope
you teach everybody? Can you do
is there more guys like you,
or you
I mean, because we could simulcast your trainings, man. There's all kinds of technology. What do we got to do to get more guys like you? Because it's obviously somewhere along the line, a lot of these guys were trained wrong.
Right.
That, and like I said, getting away with it. And I think we'll go back into police law enforcement history. You used to always be taught that you always have to have a warrior mentality. And you know what? We get shot. You have to have a warrior mentality, but you better be able to turn it off and get that guardian mentality. We are protecting the community. Turn it on and off. And like I keep telling people, yes, we're going to be authoritative to a point, but you don't need to do that all the time. Everyone keeps talking about these community policing models. I tell people, get out of your car and go talk to business owners, go talk to the community, go talk to them on a normal level and have a normal conversation with them. And it's not always a place of authority to where people are fearing us. And every time I see someone in uniform, just like you, James, you dealt with it at 12 years old. You don't trust police. How are we going to go ahead and get rid of that culture? And everyone's asking for me to train and do all that. The problem that we're asking people, reform or any change, especially with the culture around the nation, because we're not all trained is different across the nation. It's going to take time, and it is a painful process.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sheree.
Yeah. Well, my question is, what do you understand about defund the police to mean, and do you agree or do you disagree with it? Because I know that was being thrown around a lot in 2020.
Go ahead, Flip.
From what I understand, and to me, I don't necessarily care for the term. I think it's a misleading term because it makes it sound for one side that, oh, we're finally going to take all the money away from the cops, and the other side is, oh, well, we can't take it. It's not doing that at all. What it's doing is it's just reallocating the money.
Thank you.
So instead of it going towards,
Tanks.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of it going towards stuff like that, it's, hey, let's move it to where it can be used better. Social workers, mental health training, even just regular health and everything like that. It's going to go to things that in the long run helps us out because it takes away things that most of us aren't trained to do. I don't have, a degree in any kind of mental health or anything like that. So when I go to that call, I just go off of what I've been trained off of for a week of training.
Right.
So it doesn't actually mean take away the salary. It just means the funding that's been going to the entire department is what you're saying.
Right.
It's going to be.
Yes. Got it. Yeah, they're not going to. I'm not going to go in tomorrow and they're going to tell me, sorry, we're taking a $10 pay cut for you. I'm like, no.
Got it.
And I think it's talking more generally to the general budget. I don't think we need to take money away from it. Everyone's going to talk about mental health and social workers. I agree with it. But at the same time, people are forgetting pretty quick that we respond to a broad range of public safety issues and serious crime. And if we abolish or defund the police, there's going to be a delayed response no matter where you live, especially lower socioeconomic areas. And when people call 911, it might not always be there. We need to add resources to law enforcement. So that way, when they get there, either clear the call, they see someone in mental distress or mental health crisis, the police need to back off and a social worker can take over the call once the call is safe. And a lot of people, I just had a meeting the other night. No one's even been asking social workers if they want to go in there and deal with a violent paranoid schizophrenic until we clear it. Not saying we got to be there the whole time. We got to be very careful with that. Yes, we're seen as a place of authority. And on the other end, no family wants to call 911 when their family member's in a mental health crisis and it ends up in a deadly force issue. That's what we're trying to prevent. So we need to add resources.
Got it.
Thank you. This I don't know about anybody else listening, but this for me is definitely being extremely helpful. I want to add real quick on what you were saying, Sergeant, about the community policing and whatnot. I will say I did have one really positive experience. Shout out, and Felipe, you might remember this gentleman. When I was in high school, there was an officer that was assigned to our school named Detective Newbill. And I'll never forget, at the time, allegedly, I may have been a gang member. I can't confirm nor deny.
Oh my God, James.
But what I remember about Detective Newbill is that he would always come and talk to us with respect. Like, he'd be like, "Hey guys, how you doing?" He never acted quote unquote like a cop. He always came from a posture of just trying to be friendly. He was doing his job and kind of making sure we weren't doing nothing, but he always, and he made it a point to learn our names. So when he addressed me, he would say, "Hey James, how you doing today? How's your mom doing?" So I never had fear of Detective Newbill because he allowed me to have a relationship with him. He allowed me to feel like this is someone I could talk to, and that it wasn't going to pull out the baton or the gun right away. And that made a huge difference because the school I went to was in the middle of a gang district, right? I grew up in a neighborhood called to this day affectionately called the War Zone. And so we had a lot of those kids from different gang areas, but our school should have had a bigger gang problem in terms of fights, but we didn't, because there was this calming presence by Detective Newbill that people knew. It was almost like a respecting, we knew oh, there's Newbill, don't let nothing go down right now. So I guess going back to that community policing where you do know the people in the community that you're policing, definitely I've seen firsthand makes a difference.
And there was that white officer on Instagram that went viral. Did you guys see him or hear of him? That he would go into the neighborhoods, especially of the ghettos. I think he's in the East Coast somewhere. I forget his name. He was this bald guy.
Basketball?
He would play with the kids and
basketball.
Yes.
Did you guys hear that? Yeah, so it's kind of like that. They loved him.
Yeah, and that's what we need. And I was thinking about it today when we get free time, when we're out on patrol, a lot of times guys turn to, let's go find, so-and-so who's got a warrant. I would like to see more police officers when they have their free time. They're not running from call to call if they have free time to, like Sergeant said, go cruise the neighborhood, stop and talk. If it's it's a summer day and someone's having a yard sale, get out and go talk with the people. Go to the parks and talk with the kids. Just interact with people, even if it's only for 5 or 10 minutes.
Yes,
that makes a huge difference.
I agree.
Absolutely. Look, because I'm being completely honest with you guys here. Felipe, you know me. I don't pull no punches. This is the first time I've been excited about talking with cops in a long time. Matter of fact, I can't ever remember when I was excited about talking with cops. But you guys are excited because you give me hope that the things that I've been feeling and the things that I've been thinking in my, I just thought, honestly, it's us against them. I'm being honest with you, and this is just how it's been, and I've been angry for a long time. And then especially this last summer, things were crazy. And it's hard, especially as a black male, not to constantly be in a perpetual state of anger. Right. But you guys have now, for real, have given me hope that, and I'm grateful that that it wasn't black cops coming on here. You know what I mean? That I can hear from you guys and go, you know what? Maybe in the same way that I don't want you to judge me by the way I dress or whatever, maybe not all cops are bad, man. And maybe, you know, I shouldn't have immediately a defense when I see police or get nervous when I see them in the rear view. Because this is what it should be. It should be an understanding of like, we're on the same, we're supposed to be on the same team. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I work in the community.
Right.
You know, you guys work in the community. We're on the same side. That's how it should be, right? So, Sergeant, I want, because I know you train, and I'm gonna steal your question, Million. My apologies, but I know since you do train, do you think that there should be specifically more training in the art of like de-escalation in dealing with, you know, different situations? Because I feel like a lot of times it goes from 0 to 100 like this, and it's like, wait, whoa, hey, why did, you know, hey, chill, like it's not that serious.
Yeah, and one thing, it can go to 0 to 100 real quick, but it doesn't always need to be. So I always use the term, I was using it this morning with some cadets. You always get that law enforcement officer, I call him Leroy Jenkins, if you know who I'm talking about. And he comes in, we have everything calm, and he comes in there and just changes the whole atmosphere, being authoritative, yelling at people, slamming people against the wall, doing whatever. You got to be able to talk to people and de-escalate. So sometimes you go in a domestic violence situation and it's a girlfriend and boyfriend fighting.
Mm-hmm.
We'll separate and ask them what the problem is, because something might be underlying, that's something that you can solve right there and maybe stop the cycle of violence at a later time, because you know that you're probably going to go back to that house, or you know when you leave, maybe that girlfriend or boyfriend is going to call you to get some advice, maybe to get some counseling or some other resources. Talk to people. And that's like I keep telling people. I tell them there's a difference, de-escalation and communication. Go up to a scene, even on a traffic ticket. You don't need to be a dick. You can go talk to people, be calm with them, let them know what's up, let them know what they did wrong. But do you need to give them a ticket every time? No. I just stopped a lady before I retired, and she was weaving.
Can you say that part again about not giving a ticket every time?
Yeah. Why did I know you're going to say that?
Yeah,
is quota, is meeting quota a real thing? Is meeting quota a real thing?
No, there's no meeting quota.
Yeah, so it's not true, the whole beginning of the month, end of the month thing.
No.
I've heard that.
I heard that too. I'm pretty sure a lot of our listeners think that.
Right. There you go, listeners. Now you know.
Yeah, no quota, no quota.
Yeah.
If you talk to a lot of law enforcement people other than traffic, for me, it takes something serious if you go maybe 55 and a 25 through a neighborhood for me to even pull you over. If you're going 55 and or 60 or 75 and a 65 in the interstate, I'm not going to bother you. I don't really care. It's the interstate. But my thing is, let them know, because we had a lot of road rage incidents here. They're cutting people off, not signaling, moving people off the road. So I pulled her over, and she started yelling at me right off the bat. I said, "Look, this traffic stop can go to what
you just had to say she. I have not been yelling at you. Just had to say she. Jay's always clowning on women.
This is just a side question.
She or he.
this is just a side question.
But what I'm saying is that you can tell them, yeah, we're just telling them that slow down. We don't want them to be a victim of robots. So there's no need to give a ticket all the time. And at the same time, for you guys, there's no need for us to lecture all the time. Grown men and women, you don't need to lecture you all the time.
On the she thing, can we just make it a point, like if we are going to ticket or arrest anyone, can we just arrest Karens? Can we
the problem is they're not all named Karen.
Because I've had a few Karens in my life, like that needed to go to jail just for at least a day.
Yeah.
Haven't we all?
So let me ask you guys this. I know that your job is dangerous, you know what I mean, and that you guys put your life on the line. And my response would always be, because I've gone to a lot of the protests and I've spoken to a few or whatever, and my thing would always be like, well, you chose that, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess here's my question: knowing that this is a job that is a thankless job, right? Like many other professions, but speaking to you specifically, why did you choose to become an officer?
I will say that I'm not one of those ones that grew up wanting to be a cop. Growing up in the war zone, I I guess I always had a respect for cops, but I never really, to be honest, I never really liked them. Being a young Hispanic man, after, you know, basketball games, we'd all get together and pile in my 76 Malibu, and sure enough, we would get pulled over. It wasn't until I started, I worked up for the Los Alamos National Labs, and a bunch of retired state police officers used to work there. And they told me, man, you're wasting your time here. Go do something better for the community. And that's when I applied for where I'm at now, and I got in. And the reason why I wanted to was I didn't want to be that cop that, you know, just harasses people or treats people bad. I wanted to change that. And the department I work for, I feel is really good about that. They're not, I feel like they do work with the community pretty well. For the most part, we do a good job.
Thank you for saying that, because I was curious if it actually exists, because I have a few young people in my family who have recently become law enforcement. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I was upset. And their whole reasoning was like, I want to be different. You're proof to me that they can be different. Right. You know, my assumption was like, you're going to get in there and you're going to turn into the same thing like all these other guys. But you are proof to me that I can go back and actually be proud of them and be like, okay, yeah, go do this thing, be the change that we want to see. Because that's what they told me. And I was like, yeah, whatever.
Absolutely.
Let me put on that. I just, I'm at the CM Law Enforcement Academy now, and we're helping Albuquerque Police Department with their culture issues and their reform. And I told these last cadets that just graduated this past December, I said, the motto for your class is you are the change. Wow. And what was interesting is when I asked a lot of those guys why they did this job, it almost brought tears in my eyes, because they really cared. It was someone within that community, like James and Flip from the Southeast, that lived there in the war zone. And they got tired of their community always being pretty much dogged on or looking on negatively when there's so much culture there and so much good stuff there also. They got tired of it. So they wanted to be the change and go in there and actually be a positive influence and let people know, hey, you can actually be a law enforcement officer and be a cool dude. It's okay. Yeah. You know what? I might have to arrest you, but at the same time I arrest you doesn't mean I'm going to disrespect you. I'm trying to change something and the behavior that you're doing. Hopefully we can correct it. And it doesn't always have to be jail all the time. Everybody wants to talk about incarceration. Maybe you just were a stopgap in the middle of an argument or something else and save someone's life, or as an example for somebody. So they're the change.
I appreciate, John, that you said respect, because I feel like that goes a long way on both sides. So.
It does. Just, and like John said, just because I'm taking someone to jail doesn't give me the right to disrespect them or be disrespectful to them.
I agree.
Where I work now, most people would say, wow, you work. So I register and track sex offenders. That's what I do now. That's a look I always get.
We're specifically going to have a show talking about, so we're going to have you back on that one.
Yes, we have to have you back.
But even at that, most people, that's the response I get, is most people are like, because most people think of those guys as the lowest of the low. But that still doesn't give me the right to disrespect them on a daily basis. I do my job.
Then I applaud you.
You know, and I agree. I think most people, before I even took it, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. But there's nothing that says I have the right to disrespect any of them. Now, if you're disrespectful to me, you're probably going to get that back. But respect, you know, you can't just disrespect people because you wear a badge. That's not.
I applaud your professionalism and also just your care for humanity, because really that's what I hear when I hear you explaining that.
Well, thank you.
You are very different.
And it is.
Absolutely. Hey, if you're just tuning in, this is.
What Flip was saying is.
Go ahead. So real quick, guys. If you're just tuning in, this is the Revolution Radio Show on 102.3 FM KCA. We're talking about police reform, defund the police. We're explaining what that means. This has been a great conversation, but I got to stop for 2 seconds and pay some bills, and we'll be back in just a second.
Exotics Wellness. From massage oils to bath bombs, from drops to pain bombs, everything you need in exotic CBD wellness. Go to www.queenexotics.com. That's www.queenexotics.com. queenexotics.com or Queen Exotics on Instagram.
Do you have a business that requires heavily upon your clientele base having access to cash, like a dispensary or a barbershop? Or maybe you're in the market for one of the new cutting-edge Bitcoin ATMs or self-serve kiosks. Whatever your ATM needs, reach out to my man Guy, the ATM Guy, at 855-4ATM-GUY. That's 855-4ATM-GUY, or online at www.atmguy.net.
Without even lifting a finger, achieve the body of your dreams. You're perfect the way that you are, but if you've been struggling to tone up and love your body, there's something that can help you get there. Put down the box of chocolates and pick up a wrap. No, not that kind. A wrap that you can wear. That's Gym in a Box. The Core Wrap, the best body shaper anywhere. It features ultimate performance technology, Tone Up 15 to firm tone and strengthen your abs as it shapes your waist. That's Gym in a Box. Go to gyminabox.la to get yours now. That's gyminabox.la because you deserve your dream body.
Hey, welcome back. This is the Revolution Radio Show on 102.3 FM in the Inland Empire, worldwide, everywhere else. We're talking about police reform, police, just everything that has to do with police. Real quick shout out, Melion, the officer you were looking for was Tommy Norman is his name, the officer on the East Coast.
There you go.
Doing kind of a bunch of stuff with the kids. But we're running down. We're about 9 minutes out from the end of the show. Can't believe this hour went by super fast.
Wow. It did go by fast.
Dopest conversations we've had. We're probably going to have you guys come back for part 2. Definitely got to have you come back, Felipe, for the sex trafficking thing, because that's a whole nother issue that we got to jump into. Because that's where I would be a bad cop, because I know I get these cats in the car and then I'm like, he busts his eye. I don't know what happened. His eye busted up. I don't know. I know it's just so refreshing to hear, for those of you who are just tuning in, these two officers talk about that they're actually, no matter what we've seen, there is I'm gonna call it a new wave. There's a new wave of officers that not only want change but are being the change themselves, and these are two of them. They're out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. It is Officer Felipe Haynes and Sergeant John Allen. And so I know that if they exist, other officers exist in your jurisdiction. We need to find them and become their friends real quick. Mm-hmm. So as we wind down, Cherie, Melion, you got anything else you want to ask them?
I definitely want to give a shout out. Okay, go ahead. Shout out to Robert, Pastor Robert Spriggs on Facebook on our page right now. He says telling you guys he loves you guys and that he's praying for you guys and your success in being a light in this department. So you guys are definitely inspiring people. You're giving us another perspective of cops, and thank you for being the light.
Well, another question that I had, which I don't know if we have a lot of time for it, James, you can let me know, and maybe it can be answered quickly. But what changes would you like to see in policing in America? And I know we've talked about it throughout the show, so just a couple things for people just tuning in.
Go ahead, Sarge.
Go ahead, Flip. Yeah, okay, I'll go. Honestly, for all of us to change, I could keep talking about humanity and having compassion. Just humanity and compassion as human beings talking to each other. As far as just policing in America, treating people with respect, but at the same time, we know that we're the law. We might have to arrest someone and take them to jail. But for us to all be on the same page, because around the country it is different, and that's not to the fault of other officers out there. It might be in a smaller department with less training and less resources. I'll do it for free, man. But just to get on the same page and to remember why we actually do this, and I'll speak for all officers out there. And like Chavin, I don't even like mentioning that dude's name from George Floyd. He doesn't represent any of us. And I don't know how many even posts I saw on Facebook from officers all over the nation, especially officers of color also, that were disgusted by it. And then that's how we're judged now. And that's something that we don't want to ever see it again. That changed the way police are going to be seen forever. And it's going to take a while to come back from. So just humanity.
Thank you.
I agree. Treat people, I was raised, treat people the way you want to be treated.
Absolutely. Amen.
And it's the same thing here. Treat people the way you want to be treated. When I was in the academy, my drill instructors always used to say, when you're dealing with someone, talk to them like you would want someone to talk to your mom.
Yeah,
that kind of
absolutely.
respect.
Yeah.
You know, don't talk to them. And there are times, and I'll be the first to admit it, I've probably failed because we're humans.
Right.
But you know, there are times where you're dealing with people, and you do have to talk, not like you would talk to your mom. But that's, if they're speaking to you that way, a lot of times that's what they understand. Unfortunately, some people were brought up with their parents cussing at them and talking to them that way. That's what they understand. But for the most part, just treat people with respect. Like, it's an easy thing to do. It's an easy thing to say to do. Just treat people with respect.
Thank you.
I'm just so glad that you guys came on today because, like I said, it's definitely, I don't know about you girls, but it's given me a different understanding about the state of policing. Because, like I said, I know that in the same way that I take it upon myself that I know that when I'm in public, I represent everyone who looks like me. So, which means when you see me, you have to take the assumption that there's others like me, for lack of a better way of saying it. I have to assume that there's more officers like you, which gets me excited because it doesn't, you know, especially in raising boys, I'm constantly in fear and but I don't want to raise them to be like, yo, it's us against the cops. Because I found myself doing that, to be honest with you. I found myself like maybe unknowingly or whatever, or sometimes knowingly. And I'd have to catch myself and you know, and consciously catch and be like, wait a minute, I don't know if that's healthy for me to you know what I mean, for me to talk that way. And but it's because I didn't have any place to look. And so I'm grateful that I can look to gentlemen like you and say, okay, you know, we definitely that we might have experienced certain things, but that doesn't have to be our reality moving forward. You know, so for those of you out there, I want to encourage you on the law enforcement side, take these guys example, you know, and follow in their footsteps. It is possible for you to be an officer, to be compassionate, to walk with dignity, to treat those that you're dealing with respect, even if they're not necessarily respectable people in the streets. We don't have to constantly feel like police are the enemy, and even more so beyond that, that when we engage with them, that this might be the last moments of our lives, because that's how a lot of us feel at times. It is important that we have relationships with one another, because at the end of the day, no one's going anywhere. We're all here. We got to deal with each other. And so it is important that we learn to live together, to walk together, and to be united in the effort to make our communities better. Because I think at the end of the day, that truly is the goal of everyone. Like, you know, I have to believe that it is the goal of law enforcement to make the communities better. You know, law enforcement has to believe that the people in the community want their communities. I don't care how much crime is there. They want their communities to be better. They're sick of crime too, and they're sick of what goes on. And so we have to work together to make this a better place to live, so that we can finally be the America of its promise, the America of, you know, all of these great things that we sing about and we talk about. And so I definitely I salute you too, man. And I hope, I definitely want to have you guys on again. I think it's important that we have more conversations. I want to bring on, you know, we bring some gangsters on next time and have
Really?
You know,
Oh, we
but
got
no,
some
but I think
gangsters.
We'll talk to him. We'll talk to him.
you know, but it's important that we mend these bridges, because once we do that, then we begin to, you know, we won't have the George Floyds anymore, because we'll know the other cops will stop the shavings from happening. Like, yo, dog, that's not cool. And you know, that'll stop. We won't have the Rodney Kings. We won't have all these. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on. I'm just throwing this one out for free. I still think, even though the case is whatever, but yo, they still need to rearrest the officers that killed Breonna Taylor. Anyways, just throwing that out. Shout out. Anyway, but that being said, again, gentlemen, we're coming to a close here on this show. Thank you so much for being brave enough to come on the show and letting us throw whatever questions we wanted at you and answering them. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. As usual, all of you out there, you're tuned into the Revolution Radio Show.
Yes, thank you.
I told you we ain't never scared of nothing. No conversation here. We're gonna talk about it all. You understand what I'm saying? And so next we're gonna attack them sex offenders. We're attacking them. We coming at them full force. But until tomorrow, thank you guys for tuning in. Please tell all your friends about this. Yo, share it with them. This is an important episode. And as always, you know, I always tell y'all, man, You got to reach for your best, reach for success, but most of all, reach for God, because God is love and love is everything. Hey, we love y'all, man. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say, man, I can't listen to the NWA song no more just because y'all. You know what I'm talking about. All right, so we out here, man. It's the Revolution Radio
Appreciate
Show.
it.
Oh my.